if you would, it'd be very helpful, I think, for everyone, some of the many ways that it's necessary for children to have fathers, why that's better, and perhaps also for society as well, not just for children.
Absolutely. Children that have a lot about an equal or more than equal father involvement have a number of things in common as a rule. And obviously there's reversals of this, and not everyone fits this pattern. But the first is they're far more likely to have postponed gratification. And I'll elaborate on that a little bit more. Postponed gratification is probably the single most important quality to becoming successful. And becoming successful, especially being employed in a job that has some meaning for you, is one of the most important ingredients in happiness, and a sense of purpose and a sense of motivation and a sense of willingness to get up in the morning. And so in a little while, I'll be happy to just trace back how that postponed gratification happens more when you have a father.
Yeah, because I'm really interested in hearing about that.
Secondly, is children that have an equal amount of father involvement are far less likely to be depressed. They're more likely to be assertive and not aggressive, which is something you usually think of men as being, aggressive. But actually, the children of both girls and boys whose fathers are involved are far more likely to understand the distinction between being assertive and being aggressive and choose assertiveness. Boys, another surprising one for me, in doing the research, was finding that boys and girls who are raised with about an equal amount of father involvement are far more likely to be empathetic. Because I always thought of empathy coming predominantly from moms, and I'll be happy to explain in a bit why it does come more from moms, but why the outcome for the child is not more empathy. The outcome for the child is less empathy. So a little bit more on that later.
Yeah,
Um,
sure.
Far more likely both boys and girls should drop out of school if there isn't father involvement. Far more likely when a relationship breaks up, a child that has not had significant father involvement is much more likely to be depressed and be withdrawn and feel alienated. Far more likely to be addicted to video games. Far more likely to be addicted to video porn. More likely to have few social skills, few emotional skills, to do worse in every academic area, but especially in reading and writing, which are the two biggest predictors of success. Far more likely to have a lower sperm count. And here's an amazing thing I just discovered toward the end of the research for the boy crisis. I saw in Pediatrics magazine and that children who by the age of 9 don't have a significant amount of father involvement, both girls and boys were likely to have shorter telomeres. And as most of us know, the telomeres are pivotal in predicting life expectancy. So boys and girls, the average shorter telomere for a 9-year-old boy or girl without father involvement was 14%, 14% shorter. But the boys' telomeres were then again 40% shorter than the girls. So here this was predicting about a 14% shorter life expectancy for the average child without father involvement by the age of 9 already, and yet the boys were suffering more. So two things fascinated me there is, if all the things like, dropping out of school and things like that, I asked myself, well, maybe this is because boys with father involvement just have better neighborhoods. The fathers earn more, the families earn more. Maybe it's a matter of poverty versus not poverty. So I started looking at boys and girls growing up in good, quote, good neighborhoods with, quote, good schools, and comparing them with boys and girls growing up in poor neighborhoods in poor schools, and found that that boys and girls growing up in good neighborhoods with poor schools that did not have significant father involvement did about the same as boys and girls growing up in poor neighborhoods with poor schools that did have father involvement. That father involvement was really as good a predictor of success as the quality of the school system, the quality of the neighborhood, and the socioeconomic class. And this is what's led to the psychologists gathering together behind people like Warshak, 100 psychologists and researchers saying, this is not a correlation, the involvement of father. This is not a matter of socioeconomic issues. This is a matter of actual fathers father's involvement, especially the biological father's involvement, actually makes a significant difference. We have been wrong about the assumption that this was probably just a correlation. And so the more I looked, the more I found just every nightmare of a parent to be so increased when there was not a significant amount of father involvement. And